All the ladies tell me I'm incredible. Hey guys, Zach here, coming at you with another video. So today we are going to be talking about good old Nintendo, because basically there have been some trademarks recently that have sparked a lot of questions, and one of the trademarks that was brought up was the Game Boy Advance, and people are wondering if this means we're going to get Game Boy Advance on the Nintendo Switch Online. So today we are going to be talking about the possibilities of that, and then we're going to go into why I just don't like the idea of Nintendo adding these retro titles to the Nintendo Switch Online. We're going to get into all of that and more today in today's video. So, yeah, let's get started. So basically, Nintendo has renewed the trademark for the Game Boy Advance license. And I think many people obviously are saying that this means that Game Boy Advance is coming to Nintendo Switch Online. And I'm kind of half and half on this, because Nintendo kind of trademarks things all the time. I mean, last year, right as Alpha Dream were going down, they trademarked the name Mario and Luigi, the RPG series. But we haven't seen anything of a new game, so that doesn't mean really much of anything. Basically, the reason why Nintendo does this is so that they can cover their butts, so when their licenses run out, someone can't buy the rights to the Game Boy Advance. But part of me does think that it could mean something, because a lot of people used to think that the N64 made sense for the Nintendo Switch Online, but I thought it never made sense. Nintendo holds their IPs and their games with such high regard and value, and because of how much the NES and SNES games have just been distributed over these years, they've definitely become a lot less valuable than like the N64 and the GameCube library. So I think it's safe to say that the N64 and the GameCube probably will never come to the Nintendo Switch Online unless they raise the price, obviously making more money from it. But with a system like the Game Boy Advance, I think that system could fall into it fine, because it isn't a big system like the N64 and the GameCube. Not as many people fondle over Game Boy Advance games. I mean, I personally love the Game Boy Advance. But I think it would make more sense for them to put the Game Boy Advance on the Nintendo Switch Online than they would the N64 or the GameCube. Like, to me, none of that makes sense. And then you could bring up, of course, the issue of, oh, what about the original Game Boy or the Game Boy Color? And you could, but I feel like those games, while they definitely do have legacy, games like Super Mario Land 2 or Metroid 2 or Link's Awakening, a lot of those have the legacy of the Game Boy behind them, but those games, I feel like, just wouldn't be as visually nice to be ported to the Switch. Like, we can all at least admit that visually Game Boy games, and to some extent Game Boy Color games, are just not visually appealing. So blowing them up for a television screen, or even just the Switch screen, just wouldn't look that great. And yes, you can also say the same probably for the Game Boy Advance, but it would definitely look way better than the original Game Boy or the Game Boy Color. That's very safe to say. And this is like where my issues really come in with all of this, right? It's like everyone wants Game Boy Advance to be a part of the NSO, and everyone wants systems like the N64 and the GameCube, but I think it's safe to say that they won't do it. I don't even think Game Boy Advance will be on there, because, I mean, think about it, really. Like, they barely even give us Super Nintendo games. There are so many Super Nintendo games we don't have yet for the Nintendo Switch Online, and they're not giving them to us. We aren't getting games like Donkey Kong Country, or Mario RPG, or Earthbound. We're not getting any of those. It's just a real shame. And here's what I really think Nintendo should do with their legacy titles. There are so many companies that are doing this right now with their legacy titles. Put them in a compilation pack or something. Like $40 for an NES pack, $40 for an SNES pack, maybe $50 or $60 for an N64 pack, $50 or $60 for a GameCube pack. Just having all those in a pack would just be much more valuable to the consumer. And I know, trust me, I am one that says more than anyone else that Nintendo is a company. They're not just going to do something because the consumers want it. That's never how business works. Well, I mean, I guess they do things because consumers want it because it makes them more money. But obviously, fans can't just outcry, we want Mother 3 to be localized, and expect it to happen, because Nintendo doesn't work like that. So for me, it's hard to really say what Nintendo would do in that case. I mean, obviously, they've never really done that much, where they'll release a pack of all their legacy content on one cartridge or disc. You could say that they have done that for, like, you know, Mario All-Stars or the Legend of Zelda collection that was on GameCube, but they've never really done that for their whole console, and I don't really count NES Remix, because it's not really full versions of the game, it's more like mini games that are surrounding those games, so you're not really getting those authentic experiences. Like, I don't know, the Nintendo Switch has such a perfect opportunity for Nintendo to bring all of their legacy content onto it, and it would make so many fans happy, being able to take almost every single Nintendo console that has ever come out, you know, in the world, and having all of those games be available to play portably. Particularly with the N64 and the GameCube, because the N64 did not really get that much attention when Virtual Console was around, and the GameCube got none. So it's really hard to, you know, like, people want, especially nowadays where, like I said, NES and SNES games have just been spat out by Nintendo on Virtual Console ever since the Wii. So people are getting tired of paying $5 every single time, you know, they have to get a new Mario Brothers, you know, for the NES, you know? And of course, that's where the online thing comes in, where NES Online, SNES Online come in. But the problem is that you're now relying on the whole value of your online service. You're putting all of that value on those NES games, and it takes the attention away from the actual online experience. Like, people are like, yeah, I love being able to play NES and SNES games because of Nintendo Switch Online, but they don't really actually say how good the online is, because the online really isn't that amazing. So what I think Nintendo should really do is they should put less focus on the NES and SNES games on Nintendo Switch Online and just make compilation packs. Put like 30 to 40 or 50 NES games onto one Switch cartridge and sell it for $40. And then do the same with Super Nintendo and N64 and GameCube, and people will buy those based on the value they think they're worth. And because of how hardcore some Nintendo fans are, they're gonna sell. Of course they're gonna sell. Look how many people bought NES Classics, right? They're like little tiny NESs that are probably more so inconvenient to use because it's a plug-and-play console. You have to, you know, keep taking it out and plugging it back in because it's obviously not going to be your main console. People were going out the wazoo for those. So I think if you sold your actual legacy content on cartridges, it would just work so much better. Because I really feel like, of course, this is mostly getting into personal opinion territory, but I think Nintendo should really focus on patching up their online, getting actual servers, fixing up online play, reducing disconnects and lag. That kind of stuff should really be patched up. Optimize the app. Have the app actually have a function rather than just being a stupid thing where you can scroll through Splatoon data and Smash stages, custom Smash stages, whatever. Like, there should be more of a use for the Nintendo Switch app, or actually develop in like an on-hardware party system. Like, there are so many things that Nintendo can improve on the online to where the NES and the SNES games really take away, like, from that. Like, people probably think, why do I have this Nintendo online service thing again? And then some new NES and SNES games drop, it's like, oh yeah, that. And then when they do drop those new NES or SNES games, instead of getting something that fans actually want, they get like Super Tennis or some RPG they've never heard of. They don't give the fans their actual legacy content. And it's not like Nintendo have to jump through loops and hurdles to do it. It's their own content. There's no licensing issues except for maybe Mario RPG. You know, with like for Donkey Kong Country, they own that. They'll have no issues redistributing that. I mean, they didn't have a problem with it on the Wii U or the 3DS or the Wii. So why isn't it on the Switch yet? I mean, think about it, guys. The SNES Online has been here for nearly a year, right? About 3/4 of a year about. So why haven't we gotten games like Donkey Kong Country on the Switch? It doesn't make sense that they're holding back all these titles. And that's my argument to everyone thinking that systems like the Game Boy Advance or the N64 are coming to the Nintendo Switch Online this year. Because they haven't even really released many good Super Nintendo titles yet. Like, I think we got a Kirby game. Obviously, we had a decent launch lineup of games, but ever since then, we haven't really gotten many quality games after that. So again, that's where I struggle saying that we're going to get another console soon, because they're not even utilizing the console that they're releasing for now. I don't know, what do you guys think about all of this? I personally think that Nintendo really needs to get their heads out of their butts and really start, like, thinking about their legacy content in a way that's more valuable for us. Because I get it, $20 a year, you get unlimited access to NES and SNES titles, but that's the whole value of the online. The online shouldn't be valued on those NES and SNES games. It should be valued in the online play, and the online ability. So it's just really hard for me to get behind all of this. But what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments down below. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. For more videos. Make sure to click the little notification bell so that you're notified of when I upload. And also make sure to check out the merch store. I got some cool stuff up on there. I even got some new SpongeBob merch on there. So make sure to check that out as well. And yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time, I'll see you guys in the next video.